this is Tish Griffin here again with Family Credit Management, and I am back to talk with you about your credit, about finances, budgeting, any questions you may have regarding debt. This is the place to get those answers. Now, today we are going to talk about the mystery of the credit report and your credit score. That's right. Some people think it's such a mystery. Some people feel like they have mastered it, but I'm here to talk to you today about all of those things and wrap them up into one resource that you can use ongoing to deal with it. Now, once the show is over, or even now, feel free to head to familycredit.org. There are counselors on standby at Family Credit to help you with any questions that you may have on your finances regarding budgeting, regarding debt, dealing with your creditors and how to deal with them. If you don't know what you need to do to get out of debt, this is a great resource for you. So go to familycredit.org or call a counselor at 800-994-3328. So today we are talking about the credit score. And the reason why we're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail is I've heard so much about the credit score lately, but what I don't like hearing is when people don't think that they can change their own score or change the direction that their score is going. I hear a lot of people say, my score is bad. Why try? I know I can't get the financing that I need. But keep in mind, your credit score opens so many doors for you. Not only do creditors pull your credit score, guess who else uses it? Employers. We've got different companies that use it, such as insurance companies. They pull it. There's so many different reasons why you need to look at your credit and make sure that everything is on track. Now, the first thing that you want to do, though, is look at your credit report, and we're going to head over to annualcreditreport.com because that is the perfect place for you to get all three of your bureaus in one spot at one time. Yes, annualcreditreport.com. When you get your report, it will come, you actually get to choose which bureau you use. So there are 3 credit reporting agencies that we mostly use here in the U.S. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of different types of credit reporting agencies, not just these 3 that we mostly use. So you want to be sure that you are looking at either Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian. That's it. That's where you want to get your credit report from. Make sure that it's a TransUnion score or your Equifax or Experian. There are other models out there. There are other places that do offer reports, but this is what you need in order to get your finances together. Now, the purpose of the credit reporting agencies is for them to track how you spend money. And a lot of it is focused on your behavior, how you act with money, if you're able to pay your bills. And a lot of times we may feel like it has nothing to do with each other. How I pay my bills should not affect whether you want a relationship with me or not. But it does. That is the case. And that is why I want you to take this seriously, and take it seriously when you're looking at what your future should look like. Yes, your credit report has a lot to do with it, and it's a great place for you to start. So after you've gone to annualcreditreport.com, keep in mind those 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. You can get those reports. You can get the reports for free, but you may have to pay a little bit for that score. Then once you have that report, you want to sit down and look at it. Now, of course, when you're getting the report, they will ask you about the score and if you want the score. I recommend getting the score as well. And we'll talk in a little bit about the credit score and some credit monitoring support that you can use. But when you're looking at that report, keep in mind, this is going to detail years and years and years worth of activity. Because again, this report is set to track your history and how you spend money, right? So it may start and it'll cover years and years. And keep in mind, when your credit report was first started, when the credit bureaus first got a glimpse of you, when they knew your name and they began to take track and copy everything that you do down and keep track of all of your debts and spending, that day when that profile started was the day you first applied for credit, your first inquiry. And a lot of people think about, oh, inquiries, they really matter on my credit report. Keep in mind, your credit score, your credit report, they've been tracking what's called your inquiries for years. An inquiry is when you make an initial request for credit from somewhere. That's right. In order for it to be an inquiry that shows up on your credit, you will have need to request financing, a trade, or some sort of account from a lender that reports to the credit bureaus. And not all lenders report to the credit bureaus. Some will report to just one, some report to all three. Only way for you to find out is to pull that credit report. That's right. Annualcreditreport.com is the best place that you can go to get your credit report. Now, as you're taking a look at it, you're going to notice that your actual credit report is broken into 5 sections. The first is your identifying information, and that will be your name. That'll be your address, could be previous jobs. All of that information will be right there. I'm pointing this out for a reason. A lot of times when you go to apply for credit, they will ask you about your identifying information. They may say, hey, have you ever lived on this street? Have you ever lived in this apartment? Have you ever lived in this state? And where that information comes from is on your credit report, in that information, in your identifying information. So if that information is wrong and you know it's wrong and you're looking at it and it's wrong, you need to get that corrected. We'll talk about how you can do that in a little bit. But as you go through the report, your goal is to make sure that you are accounting for everything on there. If you have problems pulling your credit report, you can definitely reach out to a counselor at Family Credit at 800-994-3328 or at familycredit.org. Okay, so we've looked at our identifying information on our credit report. The next step, we want to go and look at the public records. Now, public records are anything that went through the court system. Yes, they show up there, and it's a lot more than you possibly even thought. A lot of people think that they can get rid of their public records, but I guarantee you, if it's been filed in the court system and it is legal and it's yours, it will remain there. So you want to make sure, if you know that you filed bankruptcy, it's going to go through the public records section. And when does it fall off? Depending on which date you filed, it'll take maybe up to 10 years for that information to come off. The next section that you are going to look at is what's called your trade section. And this lists all of your accounts, all of your credit card accounts, all of your loans, student loans, finance companies, your mortgages, all of that will be listed there. Now, good information can stay there indefinitely. So if you've got a mortgage, you've had it for like 15, 20 years, and it's reporting current, yes, it will stay there. If you have, and it's not something that you should worry about. Good information, as long as it's there, leave it alone. Don't touch it. It can stay indefinitely. It does not have to come off. Now, the bad information, though, or what's called derogatory information on your credit report, that can stay for up to 7 years from the date it went bad. And if you have a bankruptcy, that can stay up to 10 years. So you want to think about that when we're looking at what it is we should actually tackle on our credit report. But I want you to know what's there. I want you to pay attention to the dates that these accounts were open. Pay attention to your credit limit, as well as what is showing as your balance. Very important for you to pay attention to those 3 things. A lot of people feel like, my score is what it is. It's no need for me to look at it, but there are reasons for you to. Especially with dealing with your credit limit, we want to make sure that you're staying under your credit limit. And you may say, I know my credit limit on my credit card is $1,000. I know I only use $100. Why should I even need to look at it on my credit report? Great question. Glad you think that. Keep this in mind. Creditors report to your credit report all the time. They too can report inaccurate information. There have been cases where creditors in the past have actually admitted to reporting your balance as your credit limit. Doesn't happen that much anymore, but think about it. If they're reporting that your credit limit and your balance are the same thing, how does that look? If you have a balance of $500 and you know your credit limit is $1,000, but it's reporting that your credit limit is $500, you look real desperate when a creditor goes to pull your credit report and they see that your balance and your credit limit are exactly the same. So that's why you want to make sure you're paying attention to that. Pay attention to how close your balances are as compared to those credit limits as well. A lot of people say, oh, I know I've had these credit cards for years, but I don't know why my score continues to stay up. My score stays down. I can't get it to go up at all. I don't know what's going on. But if you look at the credit report, they've always had this credit card for maybe even 10 years or more. But the credit limit is one number, but that balance is right there with that credit limit. That's what's keeping your score low. If you want to make improvements, you want to see improvements on your credit score, work on paying the balances down. Pay it down under that credit limit. And a lot of people spout out the 30%. Yes, you do want to keep those limits under 30%, but guess what? They say the people with the best credit scores only use 7% of their available credit. I just gave you the tool to success right there. The key to success is keeping those accounts under your credit limit because that does have an effect on your score. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So again, we're looking at our trace on the credit report. The next section, of course, is the collection section. And that part on the credit report a lot of times gets blended in with the trades because it depends on how the creditors report to the credit bureaus. Again, for those creditors to all report, they've got to belong to the credit bureaus. They have to be a member. Not every lender can afford to sign up with every credit bureau. So they may only do one or two. They may not do all three, but that's okay. That's why you're keeping your eye on your report, going over everything and making sure that everything looks good. The next section for the collections you're paying attention to, you want to look at the date of the last activity. That's important because, again, this information stays on your credit report for 7 years from the date of last delinquency, the date everything went bad. So now you've got a time clock in your head. You know when you can make things better because you're looking at that. You're paying attention. You're taking all of that down as well. The next section, of course, would be your inquiries section. And with your inquiries, again, we talked about those just a little bit more. That's anytime you apply for credit. Anytime you're looking at credit, thinking about credit, you want to finance something, so you go and apply. It is what's called a hard pull on your credit, and it does affect your credit score. Now, a hard inquiry, again, is done because you are asking for credit. And you may hear a lot of people talking about a soft inquiry on your credit report or how a credit pull does not affect your credit report. This is because at the end of the day, a soft pull is there for educational purposes only. That's the only reason that a soft pull exists. It's meant to educate you, to give you information, to let you know where you are right now. And so it's not held against you like a hard inquiry is. Now, the moment that you go to initiate an account or ask for credit, open up a credit card account or apply for a mortgage, that is when that inquiry is considered a hard inquiry. Now, inquiries are allowed to stay on your report for up to 3 years. Most places remove the inquiries within 2 years. And here's the best part. Even though that information is there, even though those inquiries are there, it only is factored into your credit score for 12 months. So you may see a laundry list of things, especially let's say you're going to look and apply for an auto loan. You may see a lot of inquiries. You'll see all of those inquiries listed out. But guess what? Even though they're there, they'll only count as one hit against you as long as it's done within a certain time frame. So yes, an auto dealer can run your credit like crazy. They can run your credit 12 times with you sitting right there in front of them. But it's only going to count as one hit against your score. bringing that up because I see a lot of people looking and wanting to dispute the inquiries on your credit report when they don't really matter as much. They'll fall off sooner than you think, so it's best to focus on everything else. Which brings us to our score. We've been talking about the credit report. We want to switch over and talk about the score. When you think about your credit score, there's a lot of different models out there, so we are going to focus on the FICO score right now. That's the one that I want to talk to you about. And the FICO score is very important to people because it talks about just how your score is broken down. And this, I got this graphic from usnews.com, and I thought it was very cool how it breaks down everything because we talk about the score. We know that making payments on time affects your score positively, but guess what? It's 35% of your credit score. That's right. So yes, if you're trying to see which kind of way you're going to improve your credit score, you want to look at that. You want to pay attention to the fact that guess what? My credit score, my history is important on my credit. My history is very important. When you think about your credit history, again, it stays with you for years and years. Your credit report stays with you for years and years, but your score only takes into account the last 24 months worth of history. So a great FICO score will be as high as possible. Scores range between 300 and 850 with the FICO score model. And your payment history is a huge part of that. Also, you want to look at the other factors that are there. Thinking about your credit mix, your credit limits, how do those play as well? So if you're looking for a quick fix on your credit score, you want to keep that in mind that yes, your credit score is looking at the actual amount of time that you have or that you've had an account. Bring that up because a lot of people feel like, hey, I'm not using this account. I don't like this creditor. I'm going to close it out. But guess what? Every time you close an account, that does factor. It does factor into your score. It does affect you. And so a lot of people aren't realizing that because they say, well, if I'm not using it, I'm going to close it. Closing an account only does one thing. It tells that creditor you are not going to use the credit card anymore. But guess what? It didn't tell that creditor that debt is gone, which means that if you close out an account, yes, that creditor knows you are not going to go into a store. You're not going to use that credit card anymore. But guess what? You still owe them. They still want their money. They want their payment. So yes, you are still responsible for that debt. And that is one of the greatest myths that I hear out there that I think a lot of people think that once you close an account, you don't have to pay it. And yes, you do. You are still responsible for that debt. Now, there may come a time where you feel that even though you're not responsible for that debt because there's a legitimate reason, it wasn't your account, someone got a hold of your account, it shouldn't have been on your report. Those are things that you can actually dispute and go to the credit bureau, go to their websites and say, those aren't mine, so I shouldn't be held responsible for it. And I see a lot of people using that dispute method as well. Now, when something is in dispute, it is not factored into your credit score at all. And you may say, okay, what does that mean? Some people are using this as a way to just get more money from you by saying that, hey, we can promise results. We can do this. All we need to do is dispute everything on your credit report and we can help you clean up your credit. We can clean up your credit report. That is something that I need you to stay away from because yes, you can clean your credit report up, but it's on you to do. Now you can talk to a certified counselor at Family Credit at 800-994-3328 to help you get things in order. You can go to Family Credit's website, familycredit.org. But actually sitting down and fixing your score and your outlook, just by disputing those things, your disputes are only meant for inaccurate information. But again, anytime anything's in dispute, not factored into the score. So anytime you put something into dispute, guess what happens? It's like a mask goes on that item on your credit report. So you may see an increase in your credit score. Why? Because that account is in dispute. Disputes don't last forever. Once that dispute is done, now guess what happens? That mask comes off And what a lot of people see is that their score begins to fall again because they thought that they did something good, that they did everything well, and they don't understand why their score is now suffering after they disputed it or someone told them that it was going to come off, when it's not the case. The way to improve your score is to focus on those things that we talked about that are available on that chart. Your credit history, your payment history, your credit worthiness, the amount of time that you have had the accounts, the length of time that you've had the accounts, the different mix of accounts as well. Creditors look at that too. They don't want to see that you have only student loans. They want to see that you can have an auto payment, 2 credit cards, student loans, and your score still is immaculate. They want to see you having a score of 650 or more. They want to see you getting over 700. That's when they feel more comfortable to lend to you, to get those credit card offers. And you may see that a lot of creditors over the past year, we know for a fact that creditors have tightened up the way that they lend. The way for you to succeed and to make sure that you stand out, you have a good history, is by going ahead, looking at your credit score, looking at your credit report, and making sure things are in good standing. And so again, the counselors are on standby at familycredit.org or by calling 800-994-3328. That's right. We're taking a look at our score. We're taking a look at our report, and we are coming back and we are going to be more empowered and a better situation to handle our finances for 2024. This is a new year. We want to do things differently. And yes, looking at that credit report is the way to go. We want to not think about all those myths that we hear out there about credit, about dealing with our credit report, about looking at our credit score, about closing accounts. We want to look at the basis. What is that base of the score? Payment history. What is that? The length of time, the credit mix, our inquiries, those things that are there, those affect our scores. So we want to make sure we're paying good attention to them. Another scoring model that's out there that we've talked about before is the Vantage score. And with the Vantage score, it doesn't necessarily group everything by number, but into the same category. Whether you can follow along to see whether you are more likely or less likely to be extended credit. But if you pay attention, they're looking at the exact same things as the FICO score. Now, the Vantage score is supposed to be made a little bit easier for us all to comprehend. But take a look at what they're looking at. Your payment history is a huge part of that. If you have positive payment history, your score will be higher. And again, this graphic is from usnews.com, where it takes a very good detailed look at what your Vantage score is and how it relates to you. So go ahead, look at that. Again, get your report from annualcreditreport.com. And yes, you can get your FICO score or your Vantage score. I need you to know that there are 2 different sets of scores. Again, while we're looking at the FICO score and we're looking at the Vantage score today, keep in mind 2 separate scores. They measure things, different things. They measure the same thing, but in different ways. So you want to make sure when you're looking at your credit score, you know which score they're talking about, your FICO score or your Vantage score, because guess what? A 600 FICO score is a lot different than a 600 Vantage score. Vantage score at 600, they're all weighted differently because there's so many scoring models, but they're based on these same 3 reports. So you want to make sure that you're looking at each bureau once a year to make sure that you have things in order. So it can be your goal or one of your resolutions if you're into resolutions. At the beginning of the year, pull your credit report, pull your TransUnion report because it's the one that's most used here in the Midwest. Take a look at it and see what's on it. You want to get things in order. Again, you're looking at that report. If you notice anything that's wrong, you do want to dispute it. But keep in mind, you want to be the one disputing it. And once that dispute is over, you want that black mark off of your credit because guess what? It'll stay there it'll stay there indefinitely. And you don't want that type of negativity or derogatory accounts on your credit report. Now, a lot of people deal with derogatory accounts. They say, I've got collections, I've got medical bills, I've got bad credit cards. The key to your score, to making things better for you, is to make sure that you have enough positive information to counteract that negative information. Because again, SCORE, 24 months worth of history. That's 2 years, 24 months worth of history. So if you're starting today to make things better, then this time next year, you can really improve things. You can have that stellar score. You can have a score of 700, 800. It is possible. Call familycredit.org. Reach out to a counselor. Look at the website of familycredit.org. And I want you to be able to get the help and the information that you need. Counselors are standing by and they're waiting to help. I hope this information has helped you, and I'm looking forward to sharing more with you in the future. See you next time.